Hello and welcome to FPL Mate, your best mate for fantasy Premier League content for the 2023-24 season. My name is Dan and we've got time for one more Game Week 22 video where we're going to be covering all of the press conferences and injury news, as well as crucial updates about Haaland and De Bruyne, as well as looking at some best captaincy options and much more today, guys. So if you do enjoy this one, make sure you do drop a like if you'd like to see this video return every single game week, and do subscribe if you haven't done already. Let's get started. So let's go through the press conferences first, starting off with Arsenal. There's going to be a late decision to be made on Gabriel. He hasn't actually been pictured training, so we're not actually sure if Gabriel is going to be available for Game Week 22 or not. It's going to be a last-minute decision. It's a really tough one if you do own Gabriel, so hopefully you have got some bench cover there. It's going to be a similar situation with Rice, but Partey is going to be unavailable for this game week. For Aston Villa, Pau Torres has been ruled out for this game week. Digne is also out, but Jacob Ramsey could actually be back this week. For Bournemouth, there was no press conference, but this is what I found. Senesi returns after his suspension, and Semenyo has returned from AFCON after he was knocked out with his team there in the AFCON. So we've got Brentford up next. No press conference again. Wissa, he is still at AFCON right now, but Reguilon is another player who a few people are looking at right now. He can't play against his parent club Spurs. So yeah, let's continue on here. For Brighton, Ansu Fati is still unavailable. Now, we've got Mitoma. He is still away with Japan at the Asian Cup. Unfortunately, Japan are the favourites to win the Asian Cup by a long way at the moment, so don't expect him back anytime soon. But in the press conference, De Zerbi had very high praise for João Pedro, really high praise for him. So that was interesting. So a lot of faith in João Pedro at the moment from the Brighton manager. For Burnley, there was no press conference, which means no Taylor update. I don't know if there's any Burnley fans out there who can give us maybe an update on Charlie Taylor. He's kind of the main guy from Burnley. A few of us own at the moment. So yeah, any news on him? I can't find anything. Maybe you guys can help me out there. For Chelsea, no press conference again. Jackson is unlikely to return from AFCON in time to play for Chelsea in Game Week 22, but expect him back reasonably soon. Gusto, unfortunately, has not been pictured in training at all this week, which is a shame. Again, another player who's probably going to be unavailable for this game week, but we're not sure. Nkunku was pictured training, however, so more positive news about Nkunku, but Gusto, not so much. For Crystal Palace, Elise is available, but apparently he is going to be managed a little bit with his minutes. Ayew has returned from AFCON, so good news there, him returning from Ghana. Decore, Holding and Ward, however, are still out. For Everton, Coleman and Young could return, but it is unlikely. But apparently Everton have got a lot of injury problems at the moment, so they may be forced to bring these guys back into their starting 11. I can't personally see it, but yeah, there is a chance they come back. Pretty unlikely. Decore is still out, however. For Fulham, Wilson, unfortunately, has been ruled out for a couple of weeks with a shoulder injury. Adama Traore still unavailable, and Iwobi and Bassi still on international duty with Nigeria there. For Liverpool, there was no press conference, but we do know that Salah is out until at least Game Week 25. Even after that, his minutes could be managed as he looks to avoid a reoccurrence of the hamstring issue that he has. Trent Alexander-Arnold, however, is back and available, so good news for all of you Trent owners. Him back a little bit sooner than maybe we expected. For Luton, Osho is back after an ankle issue. Anderson and Brown are still out, and Kabore somehow is still at AFCON. So yeah, congratulations to Burkina Faso, still in AFCON, going strong. Let's see how long they can last there with Kabore in tow. For Manchester City, there was no press conference, but we've got some information. I'm going to go into these players in a little bit more detail in just a moment. But as a quick overview on City, Haaland is in full training with the main group, and KDB is ready to play from the beginning. We're going to go into more detail on both of those players just after we round up the press conferences, because I know you guys probably want more information than that. We are going to give it to you. For Manchester United, no press conference again. Rashford facing disciplinary issues at the moment, unfortunately, so not sure when he is going to be back. And Wan-Bissaka has been out recently as a precaution. Not sure if he's going to be available to come back into the Manchester United squad or not. For Newcastle, Trippier is expected to be back for Game Week 22. I know he is flagged in FPL, but the news is positive coming from the Newcastle camp. Almiron should also recover from illness as well. Wilson and Lascelles, however, likely unavailable this week, so don't really hold your breath for Wilson and Lascelles. It doesn't look like they're going to be available for this week. Good news if you're an Isak owner, I guess. For Nottingham Forest, many players are still on international duty. Tavares is ineligible to play parent club Arsenal, but Gibbs White is available. Sheffield United, Gribic confirmed as first choice goalkeeper, which means Foderingham is likely to actually go out on loan for Sheffield United. So new goalkeeper for Sheffield United. Davies and Lau could return, not 100% sure on that one, but Larouche and Slimane are back from AFCON. For Spurs, there was no press conference, but Kulusevski has returned from his illness and Maddison is now available after playing some minutes from the bench in the FA Cup against Manchester City. So big boosts for Spurs there in midfield, but that could mean the likes of Brennan Johnson becomes rotation risk. You could maybe say that the likes of Richarlison and Werner also maybe slight rotation risk, but I don't think so. Certainly not until Son comes back. It's going to be Johnson who is the main player who is at risk at the moment. For West Ham, Kudus returns after an AFCON exit, another Ghanaian player coming back, and Sofal is suspended. And finally, for Wolves, no press conference, but Ait Nouri has returned from AFCON as well. So a few AFCON returnees in the Premier League, which will give a big boost to our options in FPL. Now, I want to go further into detail about De Bruyne. I know you guys probably want a straight answer from me. Will De Bruyne play, yes or no? So I'm just going to give you the facts here, guys. You can make your own decision, but I'm also going to have my own conclusion at the end. So first of all, let's go through some dates. On the 7th of January, Pep Guardiola said De Bruyne is ready to play. Then, obviously, De Bruyne played 33 minutes against Huddersfield in the FA Cup. That was pretty good. After that, De Bruyne said, I expect to be back on the bench versus Newcastle. But Pep says, De Bruyne, he's ready to start against Newcastle. And lo and behold, on the 13th of January, De Bruyne plays 21 minutes against Newcastle in the Premier League. We remember that very well from the goal and the assist, don't we? After that, the 25th of January, so just 5 days ago, Pep Guardiola said that KDB is ready to play 90 minutes. Really soon, he will play from the beginning. After that, Pep said he was ready at Newcastle, so he was ready to play against Newcastle, and his leg is behaving well. But, of course, against Spurs, once again, he didn't start. He played 25 minutes in the FA Cup game. And, of course, we've got on the 31st of January, that is tomorrow, Man City versus Burnley. So, all of the news is saying that KDB is ready to start. Pep Guardiola thinks he's ready to play a full 90 minutes. I don't think that's super likely personally, but everything is looking positive. And apparently he has been ready to start for a few weeks. Maybe Guardiola just waiting for the right time to start him. And I think this Burnley game really could be that game. I think it's particularly against the likes of Spurs. You know, you've got defenders like Romero likely to kick a player about, especially if a player is just returning from injury. You probably don't want to be facing up against a player like Romero, right? So after that, you know, we've got Burnley, and I think this is a great opportunity. Man City will have a lot of the ball. It's not going to be too intense for De Bruyne going into that game. I think he should start, and I think he'll play at least half a game of football, possibly all the way up to the likes of 70 minutes. So De Bruyne, everything is looking very positive right now. So I am predicting that he will start and play a decent chunk of this game. Of course, if Man City find themselves 3 or 4 goals up at half-time, do not be surprised if we do see De Bruyne hooked at half-time. He is still going to be managed just a little bit, but starts are very much on their way. It's very obvious that starts are coming very, very soon, and I think this could be the time after 3 substitute appearances in the last month. I mean, how much longer can we wait for this one? He's ready. Now, if you're asking me if Erling Haaland will play, unfortunately, again, not a straight answer, but we can make a prediction based on the facts. So the facts are as follows. On the 22nd of January, Haaland returned to full first team training with the main group. Very good news to see him in full training. Pep on the 25th says he is still not ready for Tottenham, but I think he is close. He also said when he comes back, I don't think it's going to be for 90 minutes. And then again, Pep Guardiola, again on the 25th of January, this was around the Spurs game. Pep says hopefully against Burnley, he can play some minutes. So, we've got Burnley on the 31st of January, 6 days after that Pep Guardiola quote. Can he play some minutes? Well, that's the verdict. I think he's going to be benched, and I think he's going to play either 0 minutes, maybe 20 minutes if he's lucky, but no more than that. So, should we be buying Erling Haaland this game week? I don't think so, unfortunately, guys. I think he is going to be a bench. If you want to take a risk on him, maybe doing something in the few minutes he is on the pitch, fair enough, but it doesn't look too likely that he's going to start based on the information we have right now. And of course, guys, with De Bruyne and with Haaland, if we get any more information between now and deadline, I will be sharing any early team news I have on the deadline stream, so stay tuned for that one. If it comes in, obviously, a Man City playing tomorrow, it makes things a little bit more difficult, but if we have anything, we will be sharing it with you on the deadline stream. So next up, let's talk about some Salah replacements. A lot of people looking to sell Salah or maybe even Son from their FPL teams right now. You need a new midfielder. So here are my favourites. First of all, Foden. He's my #1 pick. Great form, good expected minutes, and he's got that double game week in game week 25. De Bruyne is my second choice. Risky minutes, but we know what he can do. And I do think he will be starting against Burnley. After that, again, the minutes are going to be risky. Don't expect him to start every single game, but I guess you could say the same thing about the likes of Foden and Jota as well. For Jota, great form, but the next two fixtures are not great. Chelsea and then Arsenal back-to-back. So maybe you can afford to wait a couple more game weeks before going for Jota, unless you absolutely need a midfield replacement. You've already got Foden. Maybe you don't fancy De Bruyne. Maybe Jota is going to be your man at that point. He does have a double in 25, more than likely, but he's going to be blanking in game week 26. After that, I'm actually going to throw Kudus in here. I really like Kudus as a pick. He's just returned from AFCON, playing for Ghana, where he played really well, scoring goals for his international team as well. His form before he went to AFCON, again, was amazing. So he was obviously a great pick. He is obviously a great pick, but is it a little bit too soon to go for him in game week 22? Not sure. After that, couple of Spurs players. Richarlison, really nice short-term pick. I think he is good until game week 25, but 26, you know, he blanks. After that, you kind of just got to sell him. I think you've got to sell Richarlison from game week 26 onwards. He is a minute's risk when Son is back as well, and he blanks in 26. I think as a long-term option, he's just not the one. But in the short term, really, really nice. So it depends. Are you looking for a player just to own in the short term and then maybe remove again after that? If so, maybe Richarlison's going to be the answer. And Maddison, similar situation, great player, blank in game week 26. But I do think you can hold him, considering that Maddison is he's going to have a fixture in game week 29. And not a lot of teams will have a fixture in game week 29. A lot of teams will be blanking. Spurs won't. So if you can maybe bench him for game week 26, I think Maddison works. There's a slightly longer term pick. Richarlison not as long term because he is going to be minutes risk as we get a little bit closer to Son returning. But yeah, again with Maddison, maybe it's a little bit too soon to pick him. He's only had one bench appearance since returning from injury, so I don't know how many minutes he is going to be getting immediately. But yeah, certainly within the next week, he's going to be a fantastic FPL option again, all the way up until that blank. So yeah, Maddison definitely a player to consider, but again, be aware of the blank game week in 26, which I think we probably need to have a look at again. So yes, guys, this is the blanks and doubles recap. You guys might have seen me speak about this on the video a couple of days ago. I uploaded on Sunday. Yeah, please do go check that out in full if you want to. If you want the full breakdown, the lowdown on all of the doubles, all the blanks, what's going on, why, what kind of scenarios we need, and maybe what chips you might want to use in various situations. But the basics is we've got a small double game week in 25. We've got a small blank game week in game week 26. Unfortunately, Liverpool double in 25, but blank in 26. It's a little bit of a pain, but there are a few teams to kind of have a look at here. Brentford double in 25, but don't blank in 29. Obviously, Man City double in 25, but don't blank in 26. But I tell you what, guys, game week 29 is going to be an absolute nightmare. Don't know how many teams will actually have a fixture in game week 29, but it looks like it's going to be a huge double game week with a lot of teams and a lot of players not playing. So is that free hit territory? Maybe. Is it a case of dead ending into game week 29 and wild carding in 30 or 31? That's definitely a possibility as well. But all I know is that around game week 29, you're going to have to use some chips to kind of navigate that one, because it's going to be really, really difficult to do that without the use of chips. So guys, there is your blanks and doubles recap. Make sure you go check out my video from a couple of days ago if you want the full breakdown and lowdown on everything that's going on with the blanks and doubles right now. Quick game week 22 wildcard draft. Of course, if you are wildcarding in game week 22, you're pretty much going to be forced to free hit in game week 29. So be aware of that. If you're playing your wildcard before game week 29, you probably going to have to free hit in 29. So here is the team. I think this works really well. It covers you for game week 25 with the doubles. It covers you with the blanks as well with a transfer or two. And also, it's just a decent team that has enough money in the bank to upgrade the likes of Alvarez to an Erling Haaland when you need to do that. So let's go through it. In goal, Areola. In defense, Alexander-Arnold, Estupiñán, and Pedro Porro. In midfield, we've got Foden, De Bruyne, Diogo Jota, and Palmer. And up front, we've got Alvarez, Tony, and João Pedro. So that's going to be 2 Liverpool players for double game week 25. We've got 3 Man City players for double game week 25. And we've got 1 Brentford player, Tony, for double game week 25 as well. We've got 4 players blanking in 26. Trent, Porro, Jota, and Palmer. You can just bench 3 of them and maybe sell the other, maybe sell Jota in game week 26. That's going to work out really well. And we've got some decent coverage on the bench here as well. Dubravka as a goalkeeper, his fixtures look really good after this game week. We've got Garnacho, Aït-Nouri, and Konsa, who all in particular have decent fixtures in game week 26 when you are really going to need them in that game week 26. You're going to need to have that decent bench cover. So if you're wildcarding, I would be looking to do something a little bit like this with that money in the bank to upgrade Alvarez to Haaland when you're going to need to do it. You're going to need to do it at some point. Don't know exactly when, but you will. Quick goalkeeper start order. I'm not going to read all of them out, but players like Edison and Raya, you're probably going to prefer to play some of these guys. Dubravka and Areola, bit of a toss-up. Neither of those players with ideal fixtures versus Aston Villa and Bournemouth. You can maybe have a go on Leno if you've got him. He's got Everton at home, pretty decent fixture there, and various other players there as well. So, yeah, depending on which pair of goalkeepers you have, this would be my preferred start order. Whichever one you have that is higher on this list, that is the player I would look to play. And finally, captaincy. Is this the big one? Big question of the week? Maybe it's one of the big questions of the week because there is a few options. There really is. And this could be a week to go differential, actually. But to me, there are 2 standout options. And their names are Phil Foden and Julian Alvarez. These are my 2 favourite. Foden is definitely going to be the most popular choice. Most people are going to go for Foden this week. I can really see that happening. Burnley at home, decent fixture. Foden showing some very good form. A midfielder, so he gets extra points for clean sheets and for those goals as well. So, yeah, obviously Foden, really obvious player, but he doesn't have set pieces, he doesn't have penalties, and that is something that Julian Alvarez does have. So obviously Julian Alvarez has not really been a player to get those mega hauls this season, but at the same time he has so many avenues to points, and I think he's a really underrated captaincy shout for this game week that maybe not enough people are considering. So for me personally, Foden and Alvarez are the 2 obvious choices, but they're not the only choices. If you're feeling brave, Kevin De Bruyne, if you're picking him up this game week, you fancy captaining him, it's bold. It's very bold because you're not sure how many minutes he's going to get. It really is a bit of a mystery at the moment. It's a risk, but you know that when he is in full flow, when he is doing his stuff, it's going to be very nice. So, yeah, if De Bruyne can do well, start the game, do well in the first half, then I think he's going to be a blinding captaincy choice. But if he gets subbed off early, maybe before he's got very many attacking returns, then we could see some problems there, particularly if Man City score goals later on in the game, which is not going to benefit De Bruyne at all, unless, of course, he comes off the bench as a substitute, which you don't really want if you're captaining him. Anyway, Richarlison, I think, is an interesting shout. To be fair, Richarlison has never really been a player to score those mega hauls. He's never really looked like scoring huge points. He doesn't do too well for bonus points. And he doesn't usually get more than 1 return per game. But what he is very consistent. So you can have him as a very reliable captain pick. But it is a bit risky betting against the crowd because most people are going to be going for Man City captains this week. So maybe Richarlison is a little bit risky in that sense. Bowen could be interesting. With Kudus back, that is definitely going to benefit Bowen for this game week. It's a home game against Bournemouth, which is a decent fixture for sure. So yeah, maybe those people who have been holding on to Bowen over the last couple of game weeks would fancy going for him as their captain. He's definitely an option, but a risky one. For me personally, Foden is your safe pick. After that, you're going a little bit crazy. I think Julian Alvarez is underrated, but yeah, I would prefer, I think, to captain a Manchester City player against Burnley this week. It just seems like that is where the ceiling is at. One Man City player, surely, is going to get a mega score this game week. You just got to nail down which one you think it's going to be. I think it could be anyone. It really could. But yeah, Foden is your safe choice. If you can't make a decision, you don't want to take a risk, just go for Foden. Outside of that, you know, it's on you. So there we have it, everything for Game Week 22 summarized. Everything we need to talk about has been talked about, I think. But guys, if you want to join me on the deadline stream this evening, please do. I look forward to seeing you guys there. Make sure you do like before you disappear, particularly if you want to see this video return, because we haven't done it for quite some time now. And if you want to see this video come up again regularly, let me know. Aside from that, guys, thank you so much for watching once again. I'll see you on the deadline stream later on this evening, and I will see you later, mates.